host. Again, we have two wonderful women with us today. It's Kelly Dennis and Tila Troge from the Shinnecock and Hassinimisco tribes. We are so fortunate to have them. They are so special. They are so bright, and they are fighters. Yay! We need fighting women these days. And today, we want to talk about Kelly's book that she wrote when she was young and younger. And, and the title is called I Asked My Mother Why. I asked my mom why. There were things she wanted to know. And she's going to share that with us now.
So I probably wrote this when I was, it was back in at least 1990, so maybe I was like 7 or something. And of course it was illustrated by my mother, Denise Silva Dennis, because she's an amazing artist in everything, including beadwork. She's done all our regalia and everything. So, and so basically we were talking earlier, Tila was explaining about how it was so difficult for us to, women to be able to have the vote and be able to speak at meetings in the Shinnecock tribe after colonization came in. And so I'll just read a couple of pages here. But yeah, I asked my mom why girls could not be Shinnecock tribal trustees. I think that a girl trustee could do the same good job as a boy trustee. I don't understand why girls are treated differently than boys. And I went into how today only 3 trustees, men could be trustees, 21 years of age or older. And it's a picture of the town clerk and how women used to just have to be quiet and the men could raise their hands and the women just had to sit. And that's how it was for, 200 years. But before that, in 1792 and before, Shinnecock women were the leaders of the tribe. And this is a picture of the Slug Squaw from back then, Quashan, that my mom drew, and how they basically were the main pillars of the government, and going on, and how this is a picture of my dad, Avery Dennis Jr., and during this time when I was very young, he was a trustee. And a picture of the health service and the community center, and my mom had beaded him a little gavel that he liked to have at tribe meetings to try to keep order, and he also helped with the museum as well. And then this is my grandfather is pictured in this one. He's right here. He was also a trustee, Avery Dennis Sr., for 15 years. He was in the tribal leadership, and this is a picture of a case against the Great Cove Realty Company, where there was a land issue in the around the hills, so the Shinnecock Hills. And basically just, being proud that, my father and my grandfather and all the work that they've done, and still asking why women can't, participate in the government like they used to, and hoping that change will come about. And probably a year later it did come about.
Oh, that's
when
fabulous.
Got the vote.
I think it should be a holiday on the rest.
Yeah.
It should be, oh yes, and do tell us a little bit about your granddad.
Yeah, so this is my brother actually took this picture of my grandfather, Avery Dennis Sr., Chief Eagle Eye. And he actually just passed away in September 2015 during the powwow, right after this picture was taken, so he just missed the program coming out, but this is the cover of our annual powwow program. But yeah, he was a really great man, and we miss him a lot. And he was a veteran in the U.S. Air Force, very proud to serve his country and serve our tribal community and fight for the land and our water, and make sure that future generations can still continue to go on. So.
Yes, because there have been lots and lots of Native men and now women who have served in the armed services. And look at the code talkers. There were Choctaw as well as Navajo code talkers, which actually saved World War II. So also the Hassanamisco tribe that you're from up in Grafton, Mass. Weren't they the first to have a Bible printed, a book that was actually a Bible that was printed in the native language for what they became praying towns? And could you tell us a little bit about that?
That's right. The first book that was actually published in what's now the United States is known as the Eliot Bible, and that was a Bible written in the Algonquin language. There was actually a Shinnecock interpreter, just because we had so much contact. We picked up English quickly. So a Shinnecock interpreter helped John Eliot, who was a preacher, to translate the Bible into the Algonquin language. And that was actually printed at Harvard University. And Harvard University has a lot of ties. It was created as an Indian college to educate Indian people. And over the years, they kind of lost that connection, but we're happy to say that they looked back in the past and their past and are acknowledging their original purpose, and they actually just renewed their commitment to educating Native students. And
fabulous. Yes.
Yep. So they're committed to hiring Native faculty and increasing the Native studies programs that they're offering, and kind of encouraging Native students to apply to Harvard.
Did you hear that, everyone? All the natives out there, don't forget to apply to Harvard. And Dartmouth was also a native school, as well as Hampton in Virginia. I remember reading articles about that. And who did you meet at Harvard recently? Diane Humatiwa, who is possibly being nominated to the Supreme Court by Obama.
Yep. She's the first Native woman, she's from the Hopi tribe, actually, to be able to serve as a federal district court judge. So she could qualify to be a nominee for that position in the Supreme Court. And it was really great to be able to meet her at Harvard and see what her work experience has been to get where she is. Because it'd be great to be a judge one day. And she had a lot of just very interesting experience, given that the Hopi nation is very traditional, and how they will want to keep their certain aspects of their how they would handle legal matters, versus developing with the Constitution in the outside world, and how to change the Constitution so you have a 3 kind of tier system or not, and how that will interact with your tribal judiciary and give basically the ability for fair hearings and such, given how the tribal system is.
I think she would be a definite asset, especially with the Hopi visions. And I remember meeting Thomas Binyaka years ago when he came to the UN. I was channel surfing one night. I just woke up and couldn't go to sleep. And at 3 o'clock in the morning, Thomas Binyaka is on the television. He was a Hopi spiritual leader. And I'm saying, why is this on at this time of the day, the night? It should be on so everyone knows. With the earth changes and everything, these changes have been predicted by a lot of tribal leaders all over, and no one um, has been listening, and that's why there's a big fight now in North Dakota about the pipeline. And we have water issues, we have land issues, there are more and more storms, and people need to start listening. I think what happens is we're enclosed in these little cities, and we forget what's going on the planet, and it's a very serious issue, you know. So, are you dealing with water issues and climate changes now also because of where you are and what's going on out there on the island? With the big houses, more and more trees are being cut down and these mammoth houses are being built. I don't think anybody's listening, but what can we do about that?
Climate change is definitely a huge problem that we're facing. We actually just received a huge grant. My mother was able to write a grant which was successfully awarded to our nation. I believe we got $3 or $4 million to protect our coastline and to rebuild it.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're doing is we expanded our beach and we're building oyster reefs, which actually protect our territory from incoming water and the rising sea level. But it is something that we're very concerned about, especially since the land that we were removed to is basically at sea level, and we're at a great risk for losing up to half of our territory as the climate changes and the seas rise. So it's something that, you know, we're very focused on, and we're working towards a solution just to protect our territory. And we hope that our neighbors can see the importance of keeping our water clean. A lot of our neighbors, they use septic systems that seep nitrogen into the local waters, so we have all kinds of fish die-offs and some just bad things going on in our water that we're constantly testing the water quality and just doing what we can to protect the purity of the water.
Yeah, and a lot of it is, you know, who we are as a people and like our connection to the water, as, you know, our sustenance. And you know, we traveled all over the world in the 1800s and before as whalers, helping with those voyages. And we have like our old canoe journeys that a lot of us still participate in. And we, you know, it's a way of keeping our traditions alive and showing solidarity to the other tribes who are going through similar issues. And a group of people from Shinnecock and the other eastern nations did go out to North Dakota to fight against the Dakota Access Pipeline. And there's still a lot of issues ongoing there, people getting arrested. The National Lawyers Guild I'm a part of are sending people to try to help with those who are getting arrested. But these are serious issues where huge environmental damage could occur, and their lands and their ancestral territories where, you know, they had burial remains and such are being disturbed. So it's really unprecedented what's happening now in basically Native America among Indians and Indian country coming together to, you know, acknowledge that we have to all fight together on these environmental issues if we're going to survive.
And it's really horrible. I don't understand why. The greed is behind all of this, because you saw what happened in Texas, you saw what happened in Louisiana, and they just don't seem to get it. I really don't understand why, but storms like Sandy and like a lot of this recent storm, this hurricane, flooded lots of parts of the southeast. And they're going to be bigger and more powerful, or fracking with Oklahoma earthquakes and these tornadoes. The earth is getting hot. And I heard that the tornadoes are basically the earth's way of cooling herself because she's too hot. The ozone layer is being depleted and things of this nature. And so we really need to stop, just stop and say, well, what are we doing? Are we going to have a future for, I see all these children being born. People need to stop and say, are these children going to have water to drink? Are these children going to have food because the bees are dying? I mean, these are just little simple things that I was really upset when one newswoman, I don't even remember her name, I just was so outraged when someone told her that the polar bears were having problems because of the melting ice, and she came out and said, I could care less about a polar bear. And it was just, I could not believe that she was on national television and she made this statement. I don't remember her name, unfortunately.
There are plenty of crazy statements out there,
you
but
know,
they exist. And you know, I'm with the election coming up, and I had the amazing opportunity to have a conversation with hopefully our next president,
yes.
Hillary Clinton, about these issues. And she really brought me in and you know, wanted to know more about where I was from. And I said, I'm from the Shinnecock Indian Nation. And she was really happy that I could like be there at her event to help support her. And you know, she wanted to know how we're doing, and I was like, really? Because we're not really in a great situation with, you know, how our environment is and how, you know, we would like to progress as a sovereign nation, and given, you know, certain environmental concerns, and the water and our even our ability to access certain points of our land and water has been a struggle. And she's like, well, you know, I really, you know, want to be able to work with you, and you were here first, so it's time. And I'm glad that the Obama administration was able to help with federal recognition, and we want to help continue on. And I'm hoping that means land acquisition and trust land for us, because we really need it.
That would be fabulous.
Yes.
That would be fabulous.
And that's part of, you know, what the we had done previously with working in the tribal legal department while funds were available, and now we've branched out into this project, the SOSTLC project, for short. But the whole name of it is the Sisters of Shinnecock Tribal Law Center project. And we worked with the Native American Rights Fund through that project to make sure that there was a reply brief submitted to the Supreme Court after the initial petition for writ of certiorari in the land claim. And
fabulous.
We've continued on to help the tribe be able to assert that, you know, tribal members should have free access to our beaches where we greeted you.
Yes. Wasn't someone,
Yes.
they wanted them to pay, $40 to have a license to go to your own land?
Yeah, and there's been plenty of people who get charged for that, and usually those things are always dismissed, but in the interest of justice, because of course, like, you know,
Yeah.
but you know, the problem is that's not how the statutes and the codes read, and we need to have a change in there. So we actually did submit a resolution to amend the code and present that to our local government, to the governor, and hopefully, you know, they're considering it now, and will get back to us soon. So.
Yes, we
Yes.
have to, you know, that makes, it really makes very little sense. So, could you tell us about the little school that you opened on the res? The little, what do you call it? The nursery school?
Oh, the nursery school, the preschool.
Yes, that's what it is. It's a definite step in the right direction, because doesn't Southampton get special monies for the kids who go to the schools? Special grants, special monies for that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it would be wonderful if you could have your own schools on your own and that would change how, I mean, people say mean things to the children and saying you don't exist. What does that do to someone who knows that, look, I live and breathe and you're telling me I'm not here because of their ignorance? And a lot of people are ignorant. I've seen so many little videos about kids who go to college or school and they meet other people of nationalities and they're all told, well, we didn't know that you existed. You know, a lot of Native people hide.
Mm-hmm.
They hide for safety's sake because people do stupid things or they say stupid things. And I know I'm a teaching artist, and I was teaching I think it was first grade, and I went into the gym, and I that day decided to wear my regalia because we were doing some dances, and the kids screamed and rushed into the corner saying, "Indian, Indian," and I was in shock because I said, where are these kids in this day and age getting this? Mm-hmm. And I told them how they hurt my feelings. And that, you know, I told them about Native people and everything. And at the end, the teacher had them write little letters to me, and she sent it to me. And I just hoped that I helped to educate these little children, them thinking that I was going to hurt them in some way. I was shocking, you know.
Yeah.
So
we actually just had a kind of big demonstration, really, to change Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day in the Southampton School District, where probably most of the Shinnecock kids go to school. Definitely, actually, my mom was a teacher there for 21 years, I was saying before. And it's, well, there's, you know, it was kind of a class got together and decided, you know, there were some Shinnecock students who led the effort to say, you know, why don't we just do Indigenous Peoples Day? There's so many other people and communities and cities and states now changing it.
Yes.
And so, I mean, it was a struggle, and it's still ongoing, but I think that the community has been receptive. There's pushback from people from the outside of the community with the Knights of Columbus, but otherwise, within the community and the children have been very open to it. So,
I have another guest for you, Denise Silver Dennis, my friend. She's Shinnecock, Hassinamisco, and she's an artist and an educator, and she taught art in the Southampton schools. So I want her to tell us a little bit about the preschool on Shinnecock, which is brand new, and about her experiences in the Southampton school system.
All right, well, thank you, Candice, for having us here. You know, it's really exciting to be here and to share our story that so few people even know about.
Yes.
So it's very exciting. And yes, I was an educator at the Southampton Public Schools for 21 years. I started out as a resource room special education assistant teacher, and from there I became an artist, teaching artist in the school. And so I have both backgrounds. So it's quite unique, and it was actually a way to help a lot of children who sometimes struggle in school to express themselves through the arts. And also I've taught on the reservation for many years, on and off in different projects. I've taught at the Parish Art Museum.
Parish Art Museum.
Yeah, I've had some artwork at galleries in Southampton as well. So I've done quite, my name is kind of out there and around. And the Winnichinook preschool, of course, like teaching children, as I guess it's part of my heart. My Native American name is actually Weedamo, and Weedamo in our Algonquin language means sweetheart. So the heart.
And you're a sweetheart.
Thank you. So I guess my heart belongs to educating children, and not only Shinnecock children, but the children in our community. I know in a previous episode you spoke about how you had gone to a school and the children were afraid. And luckily in Southampton, we don't have that because the school district, the parents, the people in our community have been exposed to the people from the reservation and the children. And so they do acknowledge us for the most part and respect that part of us for the most part. I mean, it was years in the making because Shinnecock children did not always go to the public schools. Back before the 1950s, there was actually a school on the reservation.
Oh.
Yes, that was part of the New York State system. And it was called the Little School, and actually my in-laws, both my father-in-law and mother-in-law and many people in their age, people who were in the 80s, you know, in the 80s now or passed on, like my father-in-law, actually attended the school, and they call it the one-room schoolhouse on Shinnecock.
We're coming to our close, and I'm so glad that you all could come. And thank you again for viewing us. This is Pathways to the Dream Lodge Cafe. Your host, Candice Tarpley, and my guests, Kelly Dennis and Tila Troge. Do come back again. Thank you for viewing with us.
Bravo.
Okay.